Everyone, welcome to Thursday's Can Do Links to Learning. You are in for a treat this morning with our guest speaker. She is talking about Canadian women in business and Indigenous perspective. Really good. Like I'm shouting out to Cheekbone Beauty. So I'm wearing her lipstick today, you know, and I've just witnessed over the last couple of years that women have really stepped up to the platform. They've lent their vision, their ideas, their dreams, you know, started their businesses, whether big or small, and I'm here for it all. So our guest speaker, she's bringing some really good energy. She's bringing passion, she's bringing knowledge, and she has a whole lot of resources she's going to share with us this morning. So get those pens and papers out, but I believe this is recorded. So if you feel like you are missing anything, you can always watch this again. So today I am honored to introduce Caledonia. So she is joining us from Vancouver Island. So if we were to look at her whole resume, it is long, big, she is ambitious, she is involved. So I'm just going to highlight a couple of pieces about her. So she brings a diverse array of skills and experiences to her work. So her Western education, work experience, and cultural teachings provide a well-rounded personal and professional guide. In 2000, Caledonia began her employment with the Economic Development Corporation, NEDC. I did not want to butcher that name, Caledonia, so I didn't even try to say it. Maybe you can talk about that in a moment. So her first task was to develop the youth business program, which included the development, coordination, and our facilitation of mentoring program, Young Entrepreneurs Conference, entrepreneurial and business workshops, and providing pre and after care to aspiring young entrepreneurs. So then in 2005, she naturally moved into the business services officer position, which broadened her client base to include all ages. And then 2013, she moved into analyzing and recommending projects for funding, when she accepted a business development officer position. So a couple of years later, this experience in various NEDC positions is providing beneficial as her role as NEDC assistant manager. So over the years, she has accumulated an inventory of training and experiences. So we are in good hands this morning. She's bringing her experience, perhaps her expertise. And again, I cannot emphasize this enough. She has a whole bunch of resources she's going to speak about and share with us, and so that you can tap into, or you can point the women in your circles to tap into those support and resources. You know, there was a time in our nation where, you know, women, and especially Indigenous women, were not celebrated, we're not even acknowledged, we're not heard, we didn't have the right to vote, right? So we've come a long way in this nation. So it's amazing. It's to be celebrated that women are really stepping up to the platform and lending their gifts, lending their voice, lending their talent to make this world stronger, to make their nations, their home fires, their communities stronger. So really good presentation this morning. So glad you're all here to join us. There will be an opportunity for questions and answers afterwards. But if you have questions along, feel free to use the chat box. I will definitely make note of it, and we will definitely get to your questions. So thank you for being here, and I'm going to pass over that virtual mic to Caledonia. Welcome.
Thank you very much for that amazing introduction, Michelle, and welcome everybody. I would like to acknowledge the territory that all of us are on. It's a very different world in Zoom, to acknowledge that we're all in different regions all over Canada. So that's amazing. I love technology, and I'm so excited that this is a way that we can communicate these days, because it makes the world a little smaller. We have people from different regions all sharing the same information. I'm gonna share my screen. Not saying that I've mastered it all, but I try. So Uklamat Da'asaksup, my name is a woman from right here. That's literally what it means. It was a name that was given to me by my grandmother, and I'm very honored to carry it. I have lived and breathed on Vancouver Island, been very, very fortunate to enjoy this space over here. I have owned businesses in the past and now own another business as well called Anissa Consulting and Training Services. I've started that just before COVID. So I decided maybe I'll stay at NEDC for a little bit longer. I have my business on the side doing consulting work as well, but I'm primarily here. I do all different, I still do business support, service and support roles, as well as business development officer roles in my assistant manager. We are a small staff, so we spread all over the place. So today I want to talk about the women perspective in Indigenous or in business. Sorry, I'm choking on my spit a little bit here. So a little bit of difference. What's different with Aboriginal people and business and the mainstream? There's statistics all over the place now about how Aboriginal people are not exactly where the mainstream is yet. And so you see a lot of different programs, and actually I really enjoy a lot of the programs. We deliver a lot of the programs that help support. So what I try to say is because we're so far down compared to mainstream, we're getting there. You know, we've made massive, massive strides as Aboriginal people, but we're still quite a bit below. And as an Aboriginal woman entrepreneur, it's even more so. We're more impacted by the mainstream. I don't see any faces. I don't know who I'm talking to. Sorry. Hi. So just like Canada, Indigenous business women entrepreneurs are diverse. Canada is super, super, super diverse. It's a huge, huge mass of land. And here on Vancouver Island, we're significantly different than all of your areas. And, you know, you look up in the Northwest Territories, over on the East Coast, into the interior, we are so diverse. You don't get that in a lot of countries. Some countries have large, large land masses. Some countries have very, very tiny land masses. And here we have we have more land per person if you spread everybody out across Canada than the majority. I think we're like second compared to everywhere else in the world. So we're super diverse, and it makes it exciting because from my experience here, we see so much diversity in women businesses. However, that doesn't mean that we are in a whole bunch of different industries. Primarily, women are in service. 74% of Indigenous women are in service industries. And we're severely underrepresented in a lot of male-dominated industries still. So in any non-traditional sectors, we are a minority by far. There's a few, you know, we've pierced that veil. We've gotten into most industries now, if not all. I haven't checked to see exactly if we have gotten into every single one, but we have pierced them. We're coming. So it's very exciting to see the diversity and that we're getting there. We're getting in there, not just as Indigenous people, but as women as well. So I'm noticing it all in my community. There was a time when I was young that it was very segregated. On our reserve, off our reserve, there was very few Aboriginal people working or owning businesses anywhere. Actually, there pretty much was none. And as I grew up, you little by little saw more and more. And I'm so happy to work here and know I can go, that's an Aboriginal business. That's an Aboriginal woman-owned business. That's an Aboriginal business. That's an Aboriginal woman-owned business. So it's super exciting to see the changes. Women are also more likely to own a proprietorship or social enterprise. I think a proprietorship often comes from keeping things a little bit simpler, but on reserve, we have taxation issues still, right? So we can't, a corporation is legally taxable. You can't, if you create a corporation, you are now creating a separate legal entity. And if you create a corporation on reserve, it has to pay income tax. It cannot inherit your status card and be non-taxable. So if you create a corporation, that the net profit of that corporation is then taxable. So a lot of women decide to keep, and actually not just women and men on reserve tend to like to keep their tax benefits and create proprietorships. Women tend to create social enterprise. They're and I really believe this is who we are as women, very nurturing, we take care. A lot of women take care and nurture, and so social enterprise fits with us. Also, it as an Indigenous person, we were communal. We were not in it just for ourselves. Everybody shared. It wasn't everybody for themselves. Everybody had a purpose in our community. And I just truly believe social enterprise fits Indigenous women, Indigenous people more in general, because that's who we are in the root of us. Indigenous women like to work for themselves more than their non-Indigenous counterparts. There you will find a higher rate of Indigenous women in business than non-Indigenous or women in business. And the businesses that women create are growing faster than our male Indigenous counterparts. So for male Indigenous businesses are growing at 36%, and Indigenous women owned businesses are growing at 46%. So we're just about 10% faster than the male businesses. However, the barriers that women face in Aboriginal women business or Aboriginal women in business face are amplified. We're like hit with a double whammy. We're not only Indigenous, we're also a woman. So that makes us a double minority. So, well, not really minority, but we've faced challenges both as a woman who, only got to vote so many years ago, and then as an Indigenous who, we've only been voting for, less than half a century. So we're coming. I really like to say that it's taken so long for for Western society to try to eliminate the Indigenous in Indigenous people through all different kinds of tactics throughout a couple centuries, and we hear it all over the place. There's residential schools, there's Indian hospitals, and there's the 60s scoop. There's lots of different things out there. So we've experienced all of that. And then on top of that, we didn't have rights as women either. So even if you did get out of that challenge, you're now challenged again, because you can't, you basically have to do what your husband allows you to do at that point, because men had control of everything. It was a male-dominated society. However, it's changed significantly over time, but we're not there yet. We're not there yet. There's still a lot of work to do. I've been very fortunate to live in an area where You know, more than half of our board of directors are women. More than half of our staff are women. There's women leadership everywhere. There's, you know, the CEO of our tribal council is a woman. The president and the vice president of our tribal council are women. So I've been very, very blessed to be in an area where women are getting there, you know, but then you look across the nation and Canadian nation, and it's not there. You know, I've heard stories from my colleagues of them going into communities where the woman can't even look at the man in the eye without you have to look away. I've heard another colleague say when she was in there, she couldn't meet with the man without somebody else there present with her. It wasn't permitted. So there's, again, back to the diversity of Canada. We are different depending on where you are. So I'm very interested in how do we get there? And that's the amazing part of where we are right now in society, because there's a lots of studies going on, there's lots of attention being brought up, and there's lots of programs that are being developed for women. It's started for women in general, but now there's more of a heavy focus on Indigenous women and helping them specifically. So I'm going to go over some of the challenges and issues and opportunities that I've seen in my experience and from what the research that I've done. I did a presentation a number of years ago. And so I got the privilege of being part of a lot of research in trying to find out more about Aboriginal women in business. And these are some of the obstacles that we've seen. So they fits into social, financial, regulatory, and some other issues and resources will be at the end. And then we'll talk a little bit about what else can we do. So there's a bunch of social. Well, women are often playing the role of the household where they're taking care of the kids. Yeah, you start seeing some changes. It's changing, but predominantly women are managing the household, including the finances. There's also some transportation issues because depending on where you are, there's not readily accessible transportation. They may not have a driver's license. And thankfully here, I'm not sure in the area that you're in, there's the Aboriginal training funding. Here they call it assets, but they've decided we're going to fund driver's licenses because it's a barrier to a lot of Aboriginal people in general, not just Aboriginal women. So they've actually started funding driver's license training and have helped support people getting their driver's license. Financial is a big challenge. Most Aboriginal women are financing their businesses with money out of their own pocket. They're either not knowing where to get the money, or they have other challenges that are stopping them from accessing those amazing resources that are out there. They may not have equity. A lot of funding programs want women or want people to put their own money at stake too. And there's, you know, we're some of the poorest people in the entire country. So some people don't have equity. You know, if you're going to start a $50,000 business and they say you need to come up with 10% and that's $5,000, but you're just managing the day-to-day, but it's a great business opportunity. You know, I think some business ideas are getting lost in there, or opportunities are getting lost because they just don't have that cash. I've been very fortunate to see some nations now starting to fund the equity portion and helping to contribute to the equity of their businesses. So if you are in leadership, our nations have helped contribute to our own people's equity because we know how challenging it is. We don't have the land. They took the land away from us here. We're not treaty here. We don't get any kinds of dividends or stipends or anything. We are still just within our reservation. Like there's in our area, there's a few that have finally gotten treaties in the last decade, but we're not there yet. So we're still fighting to get acknowledgement that this is our land. This is our land. So until we actually make a deal with you, it's ours, but we get no financial benefit from that. There's a lot of different rules that have been overcome and changed over the time, but it really was a massive issue. I mean, we couldn't vote. There's so many different things that stopped us. The treaties, we didn't have treaties. Most of the Nuu-chah-nulth Nations still don't have treaties. Most of the nations in BC, there's a good portion of them that still don't have treaties. So we're still living on a reservation system. And in the reservation system, there's all different kinds. We're under the Indian Act, and that's it. That's our rules, whatever the Indian Act says. And in there, it still says all kinds of things about having to go to the government agent, our representative that was supposed to be in the community that's going to guide us and help us, right? So it's an archaic system that we're living under. We've been trying for many, many, many years to get it changed, but it hasn't. We fortunately have had changes in the matrimonial assets, where if you are an Aboriginal woman living on reserve that and you and your spouse broke up, that you now have rights to stay in that home, even if you're not from that tribe. So that's a big plus, but we need to let people know about that because it hasn't been heavily marketed. And so there's a lot of people that still don't know about that. This is a huge one. Huge one. It's discrimination. I mean, as an Aboriginal person, we are definitely being discriminated against often. And as of the last US president came in and exposed his biases, there's many, many people who thought they could come out and expose their biases as well. So we are now, I kind of thought prior to that we were getting better, but I now realize that it was just suppressed and quieted. Now people are starting to come out of the woodwork and really share their discrimination or racism. And I think honestly, a lot of that, we just need to educate. With education, actually, there's a stat with racism, and it is coming to education. A lot of the times it comes right back down to education. They are just naive. This is the way they were brought up. Nobody ever taught them anything different. They're flooded with a bunch of BS and they don't know any better. So they still hold to those stereotypes that were all over the media, 20 years ago, 30 years ago about Aboriginal people. So it's really, and I like that the school systems are now starting to go, we need to educate people in the schools about Aboriginal people and bring training into the schools. Because when I was a kid, there was, we were, I don't know about you guys in school, but when I was in school, it was, we were the kind of savages still in the textbooks, and that didn't really honor Aboriginal people in any way. We were still just kind of an inconvenience in the way of Canadians' pursuit of their success. But there's a lot of stats on women in general. It's not just an Indigenous is one, because I find that there's a lot of Indigenous people who suffer from self-esteem issues, both male and female. But then there's also the women side of things, where statistically women have more self-esteem, self-worth issues than men. And I can see that here when I do my job. I see a lot more men coming in with, I'm going to do this. And aren't hesitating, don't seem fearful of it, and then women are a lot more conscious, scared, need a little bit more hand holding. Some need a lot more support. There's a mental thing. And then I really thought about it, and that's another business that I actually want to develop, is specifically addressing the self-esteem, self-worth, self-confidence of Aboriginal people, because I truly believe that the residential school stripped our multiple generations of that from our people. And now there's so many people that are suffering. And I, as an Aboriginal person in an Aboriginal home, in an Aboriginal community, I was never praised growing up. There wasn't a big, oh, honey, you know, there wasn't any gentleness. It was the carried down traits of the residential school. There was still lots of shaming, and that's what the residential school did. My mom would tell me, they shame you, they ridicule you, they rip you apart, they make you feel worthless. How do you overcome that? So, you know, there's been some work, and we have a lot of inspirational, amazing people out there who are helping fight this. And we need more. We need more, because I see it, again, not just from a woman perspective, but as an Aboriginal perspective. There's a lot of work that needs to be in this area. And I truly believe, because the government is the one who helped fund these entities and helped rip the self-worth and self-esteem and self-confidence from our people, they need to help fund in putting more of that back in there, because it's important. How are you supposed to do anything without it? And so a lot of the time we are here in my job, soothing people, helping, you know, praising them, giving them more confidence. Because honestly, for me, some people in my life, when I had no confidence, they shared their confidence and just kept flooding me with it. Lots of praise, lots of, you could be, oh, you look at this, look at the great skills you have over here. And they would be cheerleading me on. And I honestly didn't have huge amounts of confidence, but I thrived off theirs. So if anything, please spread that, help build people up, be very gentle in your work. A lot of times in analyzing businesses and helping people through the business development process, we get very analytical. And sometimes that can be very hard, because when you're asking questions about somebody's business and they don't know yet, or they haven't figured that part out, or don't know how to communicate it, those self-defeating behaviors start coming in and start taking over. So making sure that you're also, okay, well, I want to know about this, and it's very important in your business, making sure that if they don't know, that you help go, well, this is how we do it, and showing them and leading them the way in a supportive environment. Because it's not saying that they're not good at their business. It's not, just because you don't have, I suffer from self-confidence issues. I don't know about you guys. You guys have self-confidence issues sometimes. It's and then all it takes is somebody to come and say something in a certain way to either change you, to go, okay, yay, I'm good, to, or, oh man, I feel crappy about myself now. And it's all in the way that we handle, deal with that situation. And I am a very analytical person, so I can fall into that. I can get into the nuts and bolts of pulling somebody's plan apart to see if it's a good opportunity and if they're the person to do it, but end up having to go, oh wait, step back, let me craft this a little bit better and put more support in there to let them know I'm here to help. And we're not, especially when I'm writing emails, because emails as a form of communication can come off very, depending on how you're reading them and what lens you're reading them with, very harsh. very dry and cut. When I'm like on the other side, you know, going excited, going, we just need to fix these little things and then we could be good. They may be reading it on the other side going, oh man, she doesn't like my idea. I wonder if I should be doing this. There's all different kinds of resources out there. I love the resources that we have out there. So we're going to go through a whole bunch of them. And if you guys have any more, please share. I am not saying I know all of them. There is so much resources out there. It's amazing. So let's go through some of those. So if you've heard of the Lift Collective, I'm going to share a different screen. Where are you, Lift Collective? Okay. So the Lift Collective is specifically for Aboriginal women. And it's a fairly new, not new, but it's a fairly new collective where women get together and they have a Zoom meeting every Sunday and support each other. There's mentoring happening in there, there's resource sharing in there, there's different strategies that are coming out of there. There's so much good from that group that's coming out. And then that's also creating a lot of networking and side things that are going on as well, which is really exciting. So they also, it's a free collective. You join in if you want. It's not a mandatory every week. You can join in whenever you feel like it. But it's a really good resource because sometimes you just feel alone in this world, especially in COVID times, my God. So they also have a national database. Oh, that one sends, this link goes to an email. Oops, I clicked it again. Whoops. And then the next resource I want to share is SheEO. Have anybody heard of SheEO? SheEO is doing a lot of good work. They've been around for at least a decade now. They have, it is non-Aboriginal, but there's lots of Aboriginal in there. There's lots of Aboriginal people participating in programs. I have a woman, just beautiful, amazing woman, just in the a little ways away from me, who's putting on a beautiful program that's funded by SheEO. It's a group of women who have decided to come together and say, we are going to support each other, not just with our words, but with our money. We're going to put our money and we're going to support other women entrepreneurs. And so they pool their money and fund all different, not just entrepreneurs anymore. They fund different programs, and it goes to show the power of when we unite. And I want to start an Indigenous women pool, because here in Port Alberni, I joined a group called 100 Women, or yeah, 100 Women. And we decide every 3 months, we're going to pool $100 and we're going to give it to a local charity of our choice. And so 100 women, $100, 10 grand, 10 grand. Now there's 137 women in that group. So we give $13,700 every quarter to a group that, or a charity, sorry, a charity that we choose. And we'd come together. We were coming together and sharing a meal together and kind of networking a little, but now we're just voting through Zoom. So, but it really, again, shows when we come together, we can do a lot. And I really do think that I want to I like that they're doing it that way, but I think that I want to donate to Aboriginal or Indigenous charities, because I think that there's so many charities out there, and I think I have enough friends and colleagues and networks, and we can promote it to get enough people to do that type of stuff. But SheEO is doing that type of thing. It's a pooling of money. We're pooling money. Yeah. Kristen just talked about Tara Fraser, a friend who started the airline isq.ca and is a fellow director with her on the board of Canada National Drone Association. And she's working with SheEO. I was talking about, oh, geez, sorry, her name slipped my mind. Too much stuff in my mind right now. Okay. The next one I want to talk about is the Women's Business Network. The Women's Business Network has been around for a long time. They're kind of like a capital corporation, similar to a lot of the other capital corporations, but they're not Aboriginal. They're just specifically for women. So they have a pool of money for women to go to get funding. Now, this was new. I didn't notice that they have an Indigenous women entrepreneurs section now, and that's very, very new. So I know that a lot of the Aboriginal, or sorry, the Community Futures Development Corporations have been working towards getting Indigenous funds there to help deliver throughout British Columbia. And I'm sure they're doing it across through their other counterparts in Canada. But the Women's Enterprise Center has succeeded in accessing funding to help support Indigenous women entrepreneurs. So you could get loans up to $150,000 from there. You can also get, and I love this part, free business advisory support and counseling, as well as mentoring. I really do think that both the advisory support and counseling and mentoring is so helpful. It is super, super helpful. Here at NEDC, we do a lot of business support and counseling with our clients. We are not just a funder. We do not just say, fill out the application and we'll help you fill out the application. We don't say, do your business plan. We'll help you do the business plan. If you need help with your cash flow, we're going to be there to help you with your cash flow. You have things coming up in your business as you're going, we're going to help support you through that as well. If you have business questions, give us a call. We have no problems with that. So we're very hands-on with our businesses if they want it, because some people are free to, they have the experience, they have everything they need, they have a great support system, and that's amazing. But we need to make sure that we're here for the people who don't. And this is a really amazing opportunity for people to get some free counseling support and mentoring connections. Oh, that was another SheEO. You guys are seeing this, right? Me flip through the tabs. Okay, just making sure I haven't used that feature. And the next one is I'm trying to get to the Métis women, sorry. Métis, here we go. The Métis Women's Entrepreneurs of Canada. And Métis have had large strides over the last couple decades in successfully accessing financing support for Métis women. For Métis in general, there's a new Métis Corporation, Finance Corporation here in British Columbia. The Métis Women's Entrepreneurs of Canada is there to help Métis women starting a business and growing a business. And I'm glad I have two screens because this can get very cluttery. We already did Women's Enterprise, Indigenous Women Entrepreneurship Fund by CCAB. So this is a fairly new one. I hadn't come across this until more recently, where you can get loans up to $4,000 and they're interest free. They have to be paid back in 3 months. Like, I love interest-free money. I really encourage people, if there is interest-free money, by all means, get it. And this is like $4,000. If you're having, you know, you have some cash flow that you need to deal with, and it's a small amount of money, but $4,000 can go a long way. And then we have the Native Women's Association of Canada. And this one, I believe, came out of a report that was commissioned, and they ended up getting more funding in there. So they have the Indigenous Skills and Employment Training, which I thought was really interesting. Oh, where's it going to? I didn't test that one. So if anybody knows more about their association, oh, they've been around for 34 years, 30 over 30 years now. So I haven't had a whole lot of experience with them, but I know that they, from what I've seen, they do all different kinds of different programs for Indigenous women. So I just wanted to point that out. It's worth taking a look to see what they might have to offer. And I really liked that they had the Indigenous skills and employment training. So for those women entrepreneurs that are needing some more training to get to where they want to be, ideally you're able to take more business training as well. And then there's the Pektuitit Inuit Women of Canada, which is an Indigenous or Inuit, a support for the Inuit. Where are you? I'm sorry, I don't know where I put that one. I lost it. But they're very similar to the Indigenous women supports. They're there for the Inuit women across Canada. So now, instead of just one forum for an Indigenous women or First Nations women, they're separating them out because there's so many of us. We're all over the place. We make up more than half of the population of Canada. Not Indigenous women, but women in general. Some additional resources. These are not women specific at all. Futurepreneur is a national program where you can, and this is actually a good resource for Daryl and was it Penny, who are helping women entrepreneurs. Futurepreneur has a business plan. They have funding. And then they partner with BDC to get more funding. So if you can't finance them on your own, it is a good resource. They also have some mentoring and support services as well. Futurepreneur has a business plan writer, and sometimes that's the most challenging thing to help people get started in doing their business is they see the package and they're like, oh my God, I don't want to write all that stuff, or, you know, this is going to take so much time. Futurepreneur's business plan writer, if you haven't checked it out, check it out. Create an account, encourage them to create an account. They also have a cash flow projection tool to help them do the cash flow projections. I love tools. If we can make things easy, I don't like reinventing the wheel. If there's resources out there, let's get all these resources and use them rather than wasting our money creating new resources when everybody else is putting the money out there for it, and they're doing an amazing job doing it. So from my understanding, the business plan writer that Futurepreneur has, I believe NACA is working with them, the National Aboriginal Capital Corporation Association, to allow us Aboriginal capital corporations and Aboriginal financial institutions to have access to that business plan writer for our websites as well, which would be super awesome. The local Chamber of Commerce is always worth checking out because they have all different kinds of programs and support systems for entrepreneurs in general. One of the things that I love about them is that they have pooled resources. So they're not a solo Chamber of Commerce by themselves. They're a network of Chamber of Commerce, so they can get deals on things. So one of the deals that they get is through an extended health program. So you can buy into their extended health program. You know, there's power in numbers, and sometimes instead of going by yourself to get an extended health deal, you can go to a Chamber of Commerce, buy into their program, and ideally get a better deal on it. So check out the programs. Also, a lot of Chamber of Commerce have different training programs, and they bring in guest speakers. And so they're really there to help support the economies in which they deliver services. Small Business BC is an amazing resource. They have so much training, plus they have access to professionals through their system as well. And you can, and lately they've been giving out a lot of free training. And then they also partnered with the Indigenous Business Support Network. It used to be called the Aboriginal Business Support Network, and they have been helping support specific Indigenous content in there. So they did one on Indigenous taxation. So check them out. There's always a wealth of information in there, and they're not very expensive training. If you're delivering services to Indigenous entrepreneurs in general, I really encourage you to network with the training organizations to find ways to reduce those barriers, because sometimes, like I said, if equity is a barrier, getting the training can be a barrier. And I say it's not a lot of money, but I would rather an entrepreneur save $150 on the registration fee of their training course to put towards their equity and operating their business. So we try our damnedest to make sure that the cost of those resources are none. We don't want them to incur those costs. We're just happy they're here, wanting to learn, wanting to grow their businesses. So we're going to support them any way we can. We also have a relationship with the local Aboriginal training deliverer as well, so that we can partner with them and any of the other ones in the community and in the region to make sure that we're trying to provide as much resources to the entrepreneurs as possible. It's stressful. It's stressful when you're developing a business. The National Business Directory, there's a National Canadian Business Directory that's being developed, and then the National Aboriginal Capital Corporation Association, NACA for short. They are also doing an Indigenous National Business Directory. So I really encourage people, get your name out there. That's part of marketing. Get it into all these directories, make people see you, see your name, because sometimes it takes like what, 10 touches nowadays for people to buy. And if they see you over here, the more they see you, the more they're going to be willing to buy. So making sure that, and to encourage entrepreneurs to get your name out there as much places as you can. I see all of these funding places, and with the exception of some of them, I really more so encourage people to go to an Aboriginal Capital Corporation. And so I'm sorry, I didn't change this slide. I'm looking at the slides. This is the National Aboriginal Capital Corporation site. The National Aboriginal Capital Corporation Association is an association of all of the Aboriginal capital corporations and all of the Aboriginal financial institutions across Canada. And so they are where we go to get a lot of funding that ISC provides. They put it through NACA and then give it to Aboriginal capital corporations, and we deliver it to the nation. So if you go on the Indigenous Services Canada site, you'll see programs such as the Indigenous Business and Entrepreneurial Train or funding, and it's a contribution program where you can get up to $99,999 in a contribution format of equity to your business, non-repayable money. And these are the networks that do it. So there's also all different kinds of funding. So in British Columbia, we have the New Relationship Trust Equity Match. It's a match up to $5,000, dollar for dollar. Every dollar you put in, they will match it to give another dollar that is non-repayable. There's the business, we call it the business equity program. That's the ISK money. And different entities call it, I think in Tseshaht, they call it the Business Equity Fund, but it's up to, they cost share when you're starting a business, up to 40% of the costs will be non-repayable of the funding that you receive from them. Up to that $99,999, which is amazing. It's a per project application. So if you apply, you can go later on. Find the delivery agent in your region. And that's why I'm showing the map, because if you find them, ideally you're finding the pools of Aboriginal money within your region. Honestly, if I didn't work here and I worked somewhere else, it would be hard for me to fund somebody who could get free money somewhere, because I'm like, you're reducing the risk of the project, you're helping them build that equity into their business. I think it's a really strategic move to get funding that is going to reduce your debt load over time and make your business more successful. So take advantage of the programs. It takes a little bit of work. You do have to do a business plan. So the Futurepreneur business plan writer can help walk you really easily through that process. There's lots of resources out there. There's so many people out there who are willing to help. So there's also another fund for the loan portion of funding is called the First Citizens Fund. And the First Citizens Fund is delivered by the provincial government, and they give their contract to a corporation called All Nations Trust Company. They're an Aboriginal capital corporation, but they hold the main agreement who fund us to deliver that program. So the First Citizens Fund is a fund that's where we get to offer our clients, if they pay their loan back as agreed, 40% off their loan, off the capital of their loan. And so the Aboriginal capital corporations with these funding, they can stack them. Within the guidelines of all of these different programs, we can stack them and offer a really, really attractive financing package. NEDC, our portfolio is in excess of, I think, $50 million now. Sorry, it just grew exponentially just recently. So it was $35 million last year. And we put a lot of money out to Aboriginal people, and our return rate, our default rate, sorry, not return rate, our default rate is lower than a commercial bank. So and that really, to me, proves that Aboriginal people are wanting to pay their money back. They you know, sometimes we're delivering financing to reserves, and on reserves, you don't have collateral. You can't take their personal property, and most of them are proprietorships, and they're on reserve. We don't have very much security at all, but they pay. And it really shows that they're wanting to pay. Some other resources, entrepreneurs. The entrepreneurs are so generous with their information because they've already been through it. And every time I ask somebody to share, they're more than willing to tell their story and to share all the ups and downs and challenges in their business. Family and friends, consultants. I'd say be very careful taking advice, though. I've seen many people get bad advice from, or not quite accurate. Just that, you know, it's not quite there yet for entrepreneurs and family and friends, including consultants. There's the Aboriginal Business Mentoring Program and Aboriginal Best. And I see Kristen Koziback, who I've seen deliver the Aboriginal Best program before. There's the BANS the bands, there's more bands are tribes, nations, Métis offices are starting to offer more and more funding directly to their members, which can also help contribute to the equity that's required for financing. And friendship centers are delivering entrepreneurial programs. I've seen them join the force and do all the different kinds of entrepreneurial programs now. Universities, colleges and business training. Sometimes you can find students at universities and colleges that have to do a project that in marketing or finance or all different kinds of other strategy that have to do a project, and they're more than willing to do their project on your business because they're looking for something to do their projects on. Banks have all different kinds of resources on their website. They also have very educated, skilled people in there that may be able to help guide you in your business. I know I have a former manager here that works here with us, and she shared so much information working as a bank manager. She was so helpful. That there's industry specific associations and publications. So if you are in a specific industry, make sure you check out who if there is an industry association for your business, because sometimes they can have all different kinds of resources or statistics for your business plan that can help you. They may have the tourism industry just gave out a whole bunch of money for COVID relief. Lots of grants went out through their program. I wanted to get to what do we need to do? What do we need to do? We needed to buy more from Aboriginal women, support Aboriginal women, encourage Aboriginal women to start businesses, encourage equity programs, ideally training programs, some money for people to be able to get entrepreneurial training, because a lot of them will do like trades or specific courses to get diplomas and stuff. Sometimes all we need is just one little course or training session that will help us in just this one area that will get us to where we need to go. And that is it. So with knowledge and skills, confidence and self-esteem, I can't push that enough. I really can't push that enough. Motivation and determination to achieve your goals. Make sure you take advantage and spread the word on resources. Again, that's one of the barriers that's holding Indigenous women entrepreneurs back, is just not knowing. People, we've been here for so long and we thought we were doing an amazing job. And then all of a sudden we're like, there's all these businesses that have no clue that these programs exist and how much we can help them. So make sure you spread the word. If that's all you do, make sure you spread the word. So I'd really like to thank Candy for the invitation to share some knowledge on Indigenous women in business and how they differ, and thank Michelle and Elizabeth for bringing me in to provide this and sharing this space. Thank you very much.
Wow. Well, thank you so much. Again, you had shared so many good resources. I cannot believe the National Women's Association of Canada is older than I am, which feels old. So they've been around for a long time. So our women have been, in the forefront. They have been, fighting. They've been trailblazing. They have been pushing that path so that we today can walk on it. We can shine in our gifts and our business. You're right, Caledonia. We're not there yet, but we are on our way. So thank you for your presentation. Really good stuff today. We have a couple of moments. So does anyone have any questions? I know a couple of people had to go because they had to pick up their kids or they had another meeting. You know, the life of a woman, hey, it's go, go, go. But is there anybody who has any questions? You can unmute yourself, use the chat box, or any comments. We would love to hear from you. We'd love your voice to be part of this conversation. Yeah, like I know that I have a lot to think on. I was writing mad notes here. I'm going back to reflect on some things, go research some things. So thank you so much for your amazing presentation this morning, Caledonia. You know, and your life is busy, so you've carved, you know, an hour for us to be here, be present, to listen to what you have to offer. So thank you. So I just see it in the chat box, a whole bunch of thank yous. It was a great session. So thank you all for joining us this morning. Wherever you go today, know that your dreams, the vision that you hold, you know, that business idea, it matters and it is needed, you know, for us to be stronger in our communities and where we live and where we operate out of. You know, your dreams, your vision, your ideas need to come to the forefront. That helps us, that helps you. So bring your game. So thank you all for joining us. We just want to give a shout out to Creator for the gift of another day, a gift to learn and to listen and have our, you know, hearts stirred. So thank you so much for joining us this morning. Be well. Peace.